In the early hours of this morning, December 3rd, the year of our Lord 2023, the very sad news came through of the passing on of one of the gallant soldiers of a better Kenya, a man called Lawrence Sifuna. Lawrence Sifuna is, of course, the father of Edwin Sifuna, current Nairobi Senator and Secretary General of the ODM party. And I believe it is only fitting that on my show today, I pay tribute to this great unsung hero of the country called Kenya, and even his colleagues, because Lawrence Sifuna will be best remembered as being part of the very famous 7 bearded sisters that dared to challenge the dictatorial regime of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi in the 80s, and of course paid a very heavy price. Many of them went into exile, others lost their lives. The late Sifuna, of course, hails from the Bukusu community amongst the larger Luhya tribe. Now, the Bukusu have a distinction of having produced in Kenya very selfless leaders who fought to the very end for the people. Mostly, it's only nowadays we're beginning to get a very different breed of politicians. But it has not always been like that. We have had great names like Masinde Muliro, who was one of the leaders who succeeded in uniting the Luhya community as one. We also have the late Michael Kijana Wamalwa, Vice President of the Republic of Kenya in the very first Kibaki administration. My kind of leaders, people who leave power with nothing. People say so-and-so's in parliament, really served the people, was very dedicated, but he left with nothing. Those are my kind of leaders. Not today's leaders who go into politics to mint money. I believe they should learn something from the life of the late Lawrence Sifuna. It is not what you leave behind in terms of material wealth. It is what you leave behind as a legacy that will live long after you're gone. And indeed, Lawrence Sifuna's name will remain in the annals of Kenyan history for a very long time to come. Because you see, these were the initial Kenyans who laid the groundwork for the second liberation of Kenya. Yes, it was not successful, but it was yet another step in the right direction for a better Kenya. And it was never easy for Bwana Sifuna. Immediately after the 1982 aborted coup, he got a visit from the boys, the special branch at that time, and was asked to surrender his passport. For those looking for evidence to believe my video that the 1982 coup was not even a coup, here it is right in front of your face. Because immediately after the aborted coup, there was harassment of politicians who were vocal in parliament against government excesses, when many others chose to keep quiet, eat quietly, survive quietly, while the lives of Kenyans, the Kenyans who elected them, continued to get worse and worse every day. So popular nationally was Lawrence Sifuna that he even went to another constituency where he did not hail from, Bumula, and still won the parliamentary seat there. Well, Lawrence Sifuna and his colleagues, the 7 bearded sisters, and in a minute I'll tell you why they were called the 7 bearded sisters, have earned their place in history in the fight for a better Kenya. And actually there is something else. There were not actually 7, there were 8. And the 8th person was actually a woman. Yeah. And indeed this was confirmed by an interview that Lawrence Sifuna gave to one of the TV stations about 6-7 years ago, where he mentioned the name of this woman and acknowledged that actually she was part and parcel of the bearded sisters. But I'll come back to that after this brief message. Many people come to this channel and they just believe it is just an ordinary channel, just like any other channel. But I'm very grateful for the Kumekucha family who fully understand what is happening here and that there is something very different about this channel. They ignore the arithmetic and sums which are done by others, about this channel's financial position. And some of them fully understand what is involved in getting you the information that has made you fall in love with this channel. And to keep it running and all together, even as others are not happy, and by the way, those others are very powerful individuals, are not happy with what we're doing on this channel, naturally, because they want to retain the status quo at all costs. And these very special Kenyans have decided twice a year to give this channel the much needed boost that enable us to achieve so much more, and indeed to survive despite the circumstances. It is that time of the year again, and I believe you can see details on your screens. This message is of course for those of you who understand and who are in the Kumekucha family. Others are welcome, but many of them may not understand. And once again I acknowledge you, supporters of this channel. Thank you very much, and even thank you in advance for having stuck to the pledge you made over 2 years ago. And you have done it so consistently. Asanteni sana. The details are in front of your screens right now, and they will be repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube. Now the full list of the bearded sisters, 8, not 7, is as follows. And this group existed in the early 80s. Abuya, who was the legislator for Kitutu East. Onyango Midika, who was then the legislator for Nyando, now Mohoroni constituency. Mwachengu wa Machofi, who was the MP for Undai. Lawrence Sifuna, Bumula. Chibule Watsuma, Kaloleni. James Agri Orengo, Ugenya. Koigi wa Omwere, Nakuru North, now Subukia. And Chelagat Mutai, or Philomena Chelagat Mutai, who broke all records and had the distinction then of being the youngest ever member of parliament, and also a woman at that, when there were very few women in the National Assembly. She was the MP for Eldoret North. Now those who have been on this channel for a longer time will already know that I had the pleasure and privilege of actually meeting this great Kenyan woman, Chelagat Mutai, in person. It happened around 1987-1988. I struck up a conversation with a total stranger at a social gathering, and we talked for a long time before she finally introduced herself, and I almost fell off my chair. It took quite some time for it to sink in that actually I was having a conversation with one of the most important political figures of our time, and indeed the history of Kenya. And indeed Miss Mutai is the true pioneer of standing up for the rights of Kenyans against government excesses. I mean, she was doing it when all those who were walking around in trousers were cowering and shrinking. This woman was talking and speaking truth to government. Actually, at the time I met her, she had just returned from exile in Tanzania, where she fled in 1981, to be precise, October 1981. And fascinatingly, she was granted political asylum by the Tanzanian government and even got to meet the great man, President Julius Kabarage Nyerere, who asked her about the political situation in Kenya then, and then ordered for her to be given a job. She was a journalist by profession and worked for a leading English newspaper in Tanzania during her exile. I believe it's called Daily News. She returned to Kenya in 1984. Now, let us not make the mistake of thinking that in the days of the late Lawrence Sifuna, people did not go into politics to make money or to protect their wealth. No. This thing has always been there in Kenyan politics. And therefore it is to the credit of the older Sifuna that he had his priorities right throughout his political career. He was in parliament for over 20 years. My only issue with him is that in the year 2013, he vied for a parliamentary seat under the URP ticket. I am sure most of us remember that party. That is the party that merged with TNA, the party that belonged to William Ruto. And then later, this same URP fled from Jubilee to form the current UDA. URP and UDA, same WhatsApp group. That is a part of his political career that I'm still to understand. Although I'm informed from the ground that he never changed his politics. And I'm speculating, maybe it was his realization, at what URP was all about, that caused him to leave politics completely. He did not vie in 2022, while some of his colleagues are still very strong in politics. People like James Orengo, even Koigi wa Omwere, although he did not make it. But as you know, in Kenya, we treat our heroes and heroines very shoddily. We take them very lightly, as nobodies. People don't want to remember them. And we Kenyans only pretend and shed crocodile tears when they're gone. Very sad. But in my opinion, the life of Lawrence Sifuna should be an inspiration to us, and it should teach us the lesson that sometimes the things we do, which look like they're very small, usually build up and contribute towards a much bigger thing that leads to a better Kenya. Because what Bwana Sifuna did with the 8 bearded sisters led to the second liberation of Kenya. Yes, it was aborted, but it took us a step nearer that better Kenya we seek. Now, very interestingly, the label, the bearded sisters, was given by the then Attorney General, AG, Charles Mugane Njonjo. And he copied it from a very controversial book produced at the time, titled The Seven Sisters, referring to 7 big oil companies making huge, unimaginable profits. The book was titled The Seven Sisters. Njonjo added bearded to link the group to Karl Marx's philosophies and political thinking. In those days, the government wanted to portray all those who are voicing concerns as being communists and generally following ideologies that are far from democracy, which of course was not true. In fact, they were doing the very opposite, talking on behalf of the people who elected them. And they labeled the 7 bearded sisters stuck. Maybe Kenyans in those days could not count because they were actually 8. But then we know arithmetic na madhabu has always been a problem for Kenyans, most Kenyans. Mathematics ni shida. Anyway, fare thee well, Lawrence Sifuna. I believe I will not be lying when I say Kenya is a better place because a man called Lawrence Sifuna lived here. Now, very quickly before I go, we still have those slots for anybody interested in sponsoring a Kumekucha video. Our sponsors so far report very positive results, which confirms that we reach a very unique audience. In case you're interested, you'll find details in the description area below this video. WIB number 116 is out. Has been out for a couple of days now. And those who have taken it in have had some very interesting comments. Yeah. And generally, they have found that it has helped them a lot to understand many of the confusing things that are unfolding in our politics right now. Yeah. You can take full advantage of our latest offer, 2005 Kenya shillings, and that is the year the Kumekucha brand was launched, May 2005, in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And in case you want to take this subscription via PayPal, it is only $15. And of course, you'll receive all the back editions since we started of the weekly intelligence briefings, well over 100. And then you'll be able to continue receiving at least another 52 weekly intelligence briefings. Yeah, 1 year subscription. And that means that if in a year we have not yet produced 52, your subscription runs until you get your 52 editions of the highly sensitive, very informative weekly intelligence briefings. Go for it. I highly recommend it. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.